Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all our dear respected viewers, and welcome on Youth Matters with me, your host Sakina Habib. As you know that Youth Matters is a very wide and a broad-minded platform where we bring in all sorts of unique discourses and conversations to bring awareness in several matters that are connected to societal issues, health and medicinal, lifestyle, nutritional issues, as well as things that are really related to our lives and matters that are related to the youth. Now, on today's program, I thought that we should bring in awareness on the topic of those people who are mentally challenged and who are disabled, and the sorts of challenges that they need to overcome in their lives. Now, of course, we do hear a lot of stories directly coming from people who have autism or certain syndromes or illnesses as such in their lives. But what is more unique about today's discussion is that I'm going to be talking to a sibling of a special angel who, has grown up with a sibling with a learning disability throughout her life. Now, growing up with a sibling with a learning disability can be challenging, but there are ways to cope and support both the sibling with the disability and the other siblings in the family. So, having a sibling with a disability can affect the social and emotional development of siblings. And it can also lead to a mixture of emotions such as, jealousy, worry, and protection, and all those sorts of things. And siblings may feel isolated or even burdened by pressure at some point in their lives. So they may also experience a wide range of emotions that includes resentment and anger. While growing up with a sibling with a disability can be challenging, it can also lead to positive outcomes such as increased empathy, resiliency, and greater tolerance for individual differences, and all of that. Now, on today's program, the special guest who will be joining me today is a sibling to someone who faces disability, and she will be telling us more about her journey as a sibling and about her sibling as well. And I would like to welcome her on board. She is joining me from Iran, and a brief introduction about her is that her name is Sabira Kanji, Sister Sabira Kanji. She is a clinical psychologist and a family therapist. She was born in Tanzania and brought up in Pakistan, where she did her master's in clinical psychology. And then she went to the UK to do her second master's in family and systemic therapy. She has been conducting online therapy sessions for the past 8 to 9 years. And, she's also on the therapist panel for various platforms such as Ask Those Who Know, Imam Connect, and Faith Counseling. And I would like to know more about her journey, about what it is like to grow up with a sibling with a disability. So I would like to welcome her. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Sabira. It's a pleasure to have you on Youth Matters. Thank you for your precious time.
Walaikum salam, Sister Sakina. Thank you for having me here.
Sister Sabira, I just want everybody to know that, mashallah, you are doing a great. I came to know about your new initiative, which is called SIP Care, where you take care of the special needs of, a person who has autism or any sort of such, issues in their lives. And these are children who are really special because they are neurodivergent. And to give them attention and to tend to them requires a special, of course, treatment and all of that. I would like to more know from you that can you tell us what SIP Care is all about, and where did the idea come from about this initiative?
Yeah. So SIP Care basically is not for the individuals who have disabilities, it's for the siblings, right? And the idea came from obviously my own personal life. And, like parents still are, I think, catered, their needs are catered through various platforms, through support groups, but I had not come across anything for the siblings. And being a sibling who has grown up with a brother who has intellectual disability, I felt that, there is a need that siblings also have their own concerns, fears, emotions, and there should be a platform where siblings can join together and we can support each other, just by listening, just by being there for each other. And obviously, because I'm a psychologist, I wanted to, as a psychologist and as a family therapist, I wanted to contain those emotions and help them regulate them, and whether maybe they're not living with those siblings, they have they have their own lives and they have moved on from that house, but still there are always fears and there are always concerns, and maybe there are still traumas, or depending on their history, depending on how their parents reacted and how they coped. Did they develop any resilience? Did they develop coping strategies, or they still hold some sort of, as you said, like resentment or negative feelings? So I wanted to provide a safe space for siblings where we can come together and discuss these matters.
Thank you so much for bringing in this topic, because I think it needs to be highlighted within our communities, within our societies, that how can we tackle with such issues? How can we tackle with such individuals within our communities? I would like to know more about your brother. For example, what sort of a learning disability does he have? Was it by birth, or did it progress in the later years? What is his diagnosis?
Right. So my brother, his name is Ali, and Alhamdulillah, now he's 40 years old. He's 3 years younger than me, right? So I was born in Tanzania, and he was born in Pakistan just after we migrated. So when he was born, like other kids who have got jaundice, so he had jaundice, and the doctors just kept on focusing on his jaundice, which was not coming under control. But in those years, in the early 1980s, there was no requirement for screening thyroid, right? And he was born with hypothyroidism, which is, his gland was not producing thyroxine. Now, this is common in many children, but what happens is slowly it starts producing and it is okay. But what happened with my brother was that it wasn't producing any thyroxine, and as there were no blood tests done, my mother could notice that why is my child the obvious signs were very dry skin, a swollen tongue, puffiness under the eyes, and also a very enlarged kind of belly button, and also his milestones started delaying. Normally a child of 3-4 months would be able to hold their necks, but he wasn't, and his jaundice wasn't coming under control. Now, I have no memories of that time, but what I've heard from my parents is they took him to the best kind of child specialist, to pediatrician, but no one could actually tell what the problem was, and they was just trying to uh, manage the jaundice. But the doctor who actually diagnosed him, without any tests, he just saw him and said that, you guys, where are you sleeping? Where have you guys been? This is so obvious that this child is not, his gland is not producing thyrox. I'm 100% sure this is the problem, but still you go ahead, do the test, and come back to me. And he gave us he prescribed the medication, which is, you must have heard that, thyroxine and hypothyroidism is very common. Usually it happens to women who are above 30, 40, and it's not something that is out of the world or something that we have not heard of. But because it wasn't one of the screening tests in those days, as it took 6 months to diagnose him, his obviously, because the metabolism and the functions that the thyroid gland is supposed to regulate was not happening, so his brain got damaged. Like he wasn't progressing like any other child of his age. So this was
Yeah.
what the doctors told us. What I understood from, what I understand is they did not give us details of, what did that mean, and we had to figure it out ourselves, right? So once he got the medication, Alhamdulillah, the physical symptoms all got better. He got his skin got okay, his puffiness, his drooling, etc. got okay, and he was we have got his pictures, before the tablet and 1 month after the tablet, and there's a huge difference. He was a very, and he still is a very good looking person. Like, right now he's a good looking guy, and in those times, he was a very cute little baby.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we didn't realize that what it meant that he was not going to be like other children. And
Yeah.
slowly and gradually, it was like, we were discovering it, I think.
Yeah, I get it. I think oftentimes we cannot really blur the lines between what doctors tell us, and then back at home what we as normal, like natural parents or siblings have to deal or face. I think so many times we do face such sort of issues, and it's really difficult to find the right solution to figure out that right answer, that what's really happening. It's so important sometimes for ourselves, to educate ourselves in these fields and in these areas as well. Just to get just get a hint, or a, what do you say, some information, some background information about what should I expect, how should I deal with certain situations. Now I'm sure that at home it must have been pretty challenging for you as a sister to grow with your sibling in such a manner, because obviously after looking at such sort of evidences and such things that you mentioned right now. So how would you explain, how was your experience about growing with a sibling with intellectual disabilities or severe learning disabilities as such? How was it for you?
Sister Sakina, you won't believe this, but like, I think it's so important the way parents take it. Like, we usually think that it must have been really challenging and I must have gone through a lot of emotional trauma or something, but that wasn't the case. And I give that credit to my parents because I've never ever heard them complain or say that, okay, we should be, I don't know, there are parents who maybe wouldn't take their son or daughter who has issues to a public place. We used to take him everywhere. And I think the more you accept it as a parent, the society will also accept it. If you have not accepted it, if you are still in denial as a parent or as a sibling, then we can't expect people to be okay with it, right? And even if there were comments or if there were like circumstances where people would look, obviously, because obviously he's not like any other people, and this is how usually the reaction, so they would stare, but we would be like, okay, fine, that's okay, right? It didn't stop us from, I don't know, going to places, going to the mosque. And in fact, my brother is so much loved at the mosque. He gets special treatment there. Like, we have been going to the same mosque for years and everyone knows us. So he gets VIP treatment. Like, he sits there on the chair right in front of the Maulana, and he gets his chai because he would not go and get it because his hands are not that strong. So he gets the chai, he gets the VIP treatment, and he loves it. Like, our house is just across the mosque, and he knows that it's Thursday and he can hear Dua Kumal, and he'll just get ready. And he'll, even if my dad doesn't want to go, he'll just tell him, we have to go. So in fact, I always felt that it was a positive experience for us. Yes, there were times that maybe as a child, things like, my parents wouldn't be able to attend maybe my meetings because of my brother, like parents teacher meeting or other small incidences, but generally, because they saw him as a blessing, we also saw him as a blessing and still see him like he's the most lovable member of our family. And yeah, so I mean, like, yes, in fact, when I started working as a therapist and I came across a father who was so angry and so frustrated that why God had given him a child with learning difficulties. And that was actually the first time I realized that, people have different views. Not all parents are like my parents, right? He was still grieving his child. Like, he was still grieving that, my child would be in university, but why did this happen to me? And he was still angry at Allah. He was still angry at himself. So I feel it depends on how you see it. And if you see it as, okay, this person is different, but okay, we all accommodate and we move on with life. So I guess it's the perspective you have which really makes a difference, like the kind of experience you will have, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think, one's perspective really makes a huge difference in anybody's life, be it mine, be it yours. The way we see things really makes a huge difference. And the fact that you mentioned about parent support, that's absolutely right. Like when it comes to our parents, they're everything. Like we look up to them, and they're our role models. They're at that level, at that position of, we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Islamic narrations and all of that. So, we need to build a support system. It's very true that, if we within our societies change our mindset, and, if we have that open attitude, I would say, or, that sort of thinking that everybody needs to be accepted within our communities, no matter what background you come from, whatever walk of life you come from. That's very important, and it should start from home. So yes, parents play a huge role. If they play a very pivotal role, because if they accept you the way you are, then you will automatically succeed in life, and everybody else will accept you as well. So also this adds to the part that when parents give you that confidence and that lead, you automatically become confident in making your decisions. You feel encouraged to be out there with people. You don't feel shy as well. So that is also a point. And when it comes to bringing positivity within our communities and our gatherings, I think also such sort of scenarios really add up to the fact that everybody should be welcomed. And the way you said, okay, he sits in front of the Mulana, has his chai, and these are some really small things, but they play such a huge role. Like for him, you can imagine how he must be feeling as well on the inside. He must be feeling like, okay, I have value, I'm worth it, I'm special. That so that is also very important for the person's self development, I feel. Now, when it comes to uh, for example, uh, how how do you want to give an advice to someone, for example, maybe people who have such siblings within their communities? And I remember you mentioning to me, I think, or when we were discussing about the topic for today's discussion, you said neurodivergent. Yeah,
Yeah.
you referred to your sibling as a neurodivergent. I want you to shed some light on this. Like, what do you mean by the word neurodivergent? Someone would question and ask, like, why?
Yeah.
Can you just shed
So you
some
see,
light on
Mr.
that?
Sakina, yeah, with time, the labels have changed, the diagnosis have changed. So when my brother, let's say, got diagnosed, they said something like, he's going to be he has mental retardation. Now that's a term that we don't use anymore, right? Which actually means that, he will not have an IQ which is like of his age. So he'll have a lower IQ. And then this term got changed, and then it became intellectual disability. And then obviously with more progress and other terms and other diagnosis and other research, so now we have got learning difficulties, we've got intellectual disabilities, but neurodivergence is something that is quite recent, and it actually defines anything that is different. It's like different, like their brain functioning is different. So so it does not mean that the IQ is going to be low or high. Like usually in the neurodivergent umbrella, we have autism, we have learning difficulties, we have other I won't say disorders, but other differences as well. But it's nothing to do with low or high IQ. It's to do with that they are different. They have different needs. Their brains are different, and this is how it's becoming more acceptable. That okay, there is a difference. It's not a disability or a retardation, right? So that is where the term comes from, neurodivergence.
And as a family therapist, like, how do you think any kind of disability impacts the family?
Yeah. So you see, when we talk about a family, especially if we take the perspective of family life cycle, right? So a family starts with, let's say, the couple getting married and then having a newborn, then the newborn going to school, and then like maybe another child comes in, and then they are going to, let's say, they are going through the phase of adolescence, and then when they go to, those children are adults themselves, they get married or they get independent and they move on, right? But when there is a member who is very dependent because of his needs, like in my brother's case, he's still very dependent on my mother, right? So her mothering role, or her role as a mother, in if he did not have this intellectual disability, it would be like, all of us gone and having our own lives, right? Because we are adults, right? But what happens when you have someone who is very dependent on you? You're kind of parenting that person as a child, because that child might be 30, 40, but it's their needs are so that they are not independent, right? So this is
Yeah.
why, it's like your family life cycle is stuck in some ways. And that
Yeah.
brings challenges, because obviously is his age is going like the way it is, but he's still dependent. On the other hand, my mother, and like, I am talking specifically about my parents because they are his primary caregivers. So they are aging, right? And he's still dependent on them. So that this is how the family gets affected, right? You're kind of you don't move according to a regular life cycles. You don't go through the life cycle stages that if you would have if the child or the person did not have any kind of disability. So with my brother, he alhamdulillah went to a special education school for years. Like I think at the age of 28 was when he was tired and he didn't want to go anymore. He has been to 3 4 schools, but we did not see much of a difference. Like it did not really make any kind of you can say like a major improvement. And
Yeah.
so he's pretty much the same as he was maybe when he was 6 7.
Mm.
So you see, he has grown, but he has not acquired the abilities of, even if it was like, let's say, an 8 year old or 9 year old. So at least he could be more independent. Although he does his personal stuff himself, like eating and using the washroom, etc. But still, there are a lot of things like, he struggles with, and my mother has to be there. And we have never, ever, ever, ever left him alone at home. So you see, all these changes obviously impact the family, right? We have to decide, like, if we are going here, how are we going to go? And if, let's say, my parents need to go for their checkup or something, so my other brother has to be there. So making these accommodations is kind of sometimes challenging, but alhamdulillah, my other brother is with them, and he does take care of Ali as well. And my parents, obviously, they are also aging. And me being the eldest sister, I'm not there. And sometimes I really feel that, what I should have been there. And I do feel bad about it, that, I wish I was there to be with them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But still, mashallah, I mean, I think what you're doing right now is really like hats off, mashallah, because the fact that you've even started this initiative of SIP care, and the fact that you're raising awareness about this will, inshallah, I'm praying, will make a huge difference, should make a difference within our communities. Sister Sabra, sometimes it's really just we are like people like you are blessed, I would say, to have siblings like this in your life, because you never know the goodness, the little goodness that you're doing for them. Your niyat, your intention itself is just so beautiful and humble that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might just love this one good like one act of goodness so much, that he will reward you for it. You never know. And of course your brother is absolutely blessed, mashallah, like no words for that, because he's in Allah's mercy. He's under Allah's mercy, absolutely. Now, as parents, right? For example, you mentioned about your parents as well right now. They are the primary caregivers and take cares of your brother Ali. So, as parents who have a child who has been diagnosed with any kind of neurodivergence, what advice would you like to give?
I think it is so important that we embrace the reality and not be in denial, because there are many parents I've met that, they are in denial, especially with autism, or where, the physical features are not obvious. They are just like other children, right? But in Down syndrome, you can easily tell. It is obvious, but when it comes to autism or learning disabilities or difficulties, many parents take ages to accept it, and they think, okay, no, it's just like he'll be okay, or let's just move on. But the first 5 years are golden years, right? And
Yeah,
the earlier the child gets the diagnosis, the earlier you accept it, the earlier you will be able to help the child. If there is this, whatever the diagnosis is, yes, it is difficult, I know, like it can't be, that is not something anyone is ready for. Like we all, when we are thinking of our child coming to this world, we have all these big dreams, and suddenly these dreams are shattered when you hear that diagnosis, or the doctor telling you that go and have an assessment. Sometimes we might go doctor shopping, like, no, this doctor is not, it's probably crazy, or he's just looking at things too much, let me go to, and then you want to hear that there's nothing wrong, right? But then
yeah,
that, yes, it might be comforting for a few days or months, but soon, if the child has issues, it will come up, right? And for the sake of the child and for your own sake, it is better that you come out of that denial phase and accept it. Yes, it is difficult. Yes, you will grieve that, okay, my child, I wish my child was like this, and it wasn't so difficult. But the earlier you accept it, I think the earlier the child will get help.
absolutely, absolutely. I think this was so important, really, to be spoken about, to be talked about. Um, Perspective really is very important, as you mentioned. We need to, make these things. You can say we should bring a normalcy, within our families, within our homes, within our cultures. I would say not to underlook someone if they have such sort of, learning disabilities or disorders or whatever. We should, also give them that opportunity and chance to grow within amongst us, and we should find strengths in them rather than just looking at their weaknesses. And yes, absolutely, parent support makes a huge difference. I would like to thank you, Sister Sabira, for really bringing this up. I really wanted this awareness to be out, and thank you for sharing about your brother. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and give him long life, a healthy life, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your parents and you yourself, mashallah. So, are there any final words that you'd like to share with all of our viewers? And inshallah, we'll wrap the program.
I would also like to thank you, because if in these platforms, even if one person listens to me today, and his or her mind shift changes, that is just enough for me. I would just like to add, you talked about support. Parents who have children who have any kind of disability, they might sometimes find themselves very lonely. Why? Because they might find that there is no support, and they themselves might go through mental health issues because they feel unsupported, they feel alone. There are already struggles that they're going through, and on top of that, they either have just Allah, or they have their faith, and they might find themselves that people are not accepting us. So there are people who will actually stop uh, socializing, right? So as you said, we have to be very acceptable and open, so that not only can we accommodate the child or the person who has any kind of neurodivergency, but also the parents, right? Maybe you can ask them what kind of help they need. Maybe they just need you to look after the other kid who is okay, right? Or they might need you to pick and drop their other children. That is what our neighbor used to do. I mean, I always remember that, being young, I used to go to school with in my neighbor's car, right? Because for my mom, it was obviously difficult, and my dad was at work. So, these kind of small gestures are really meaningful, and it does make a difference. And inshallah, I hope we can all, think of what little can we do, right? As a community, inshallah.
Yes, of course. Let's just start from our homes. Even the little act that we're doing, even with the slightest good intention, will definitely make a huge difference and act as a great impact within our communities. Thank you so much, Sister Sabira, for sharing this story. And I would like to thank all the viewers as well for joining us, for tuning us on Youth Matters, for listening out to these stories. And please take some inspiration and let us, bring that awareness. Thank you so much. I would like
Thank
to
you.
take Yes, I would like to take your permission and inshallah see you next time. This is your host signing off, Sakina Habib. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.